So it's about that time of the season where different schools are going to start making coaching changes and staff changes, and I've already talked a little bit about some of that's already going on. You know, Oklahoma's already fired their offensive coordinator. Southern Miss has already fired their head coach, and there's been several other schools. Utah's offensive coordinator, they say, has resigned. Of course, you know there's always a story behind that, but you know, you know, a lot of the coaches that are kind of on the hot seat now, or that you really could wonder if are going to survive the season, were not coaches that we were talking about being in that position back at the beginning of the year. Back preseason when the season started. We were talking about the possibility of Florida firing Billy Napier, Florida State firing Mike Norvell, just some schools like that. Possibly West Virginia firing their guy. But it seems like all those guys aren't going anywhere. I mean, miraculously, almost, it is not too far out of the realm of possibility for Florida to win 6 games and make it to a bowl. And some people would debate me on this, and that's fine. If Florida wins 6 games and goes to a bowl game, Billy Napier's safe for another year. That's just all there is to it. Now, I mean, they could go get after him next year if he falls back to, 3, 4, 4 or 5 wins next year. We'll see what happens. Especially with him losing recruits and that kind of thing. And then you've got Florida State. Yeah, they would probably love to get rid of Mike Norvell. They can't afford to because of how big of the contract was they gave him when he won the ACC and all the other money they've spent doing everything else they've done last summer. But a couple of other names that have kind of come up, and one of them was Brent Venables at Oklahoma. This is his 3rd year. How close are they to showing him the door at Oklahoma? Now, that was before they fired their offensive coordinator, Seth Littrell. Now that they see a school, when they get into that kind of situation, they always do one of two things. They either fire the head coach or they fire everybody else. And it looks like Oklahoma's probably going to take the path of everybody else. Now, their defense has been okay, but they have had no offense. They start a quarterback, pull him out, say they're going to redshirt him, put in a true freshman. He has a little bit of success in a couple of games, but they don't win a whole lot. Then they play South Carolina, and when that game started, before half the people in that stadium realized that the game had started, South Carolina was ahead 21-0. So they take him out, burn the red shirt that they said they were going to use on the other guy. So here you go, and then you fire your offensive coordinator. So Oklahoma's kind of up a creek right now. We'll see what happens to them going on throughout the rest of the season. But it looks like they're going to take the path of hang on to the head coach and make some changes elsewhere. Excuse me. Another school that you're starting to hear some grumblings about, not even necessarily hard and fast rumors, but Alabama. Are they going to keep Kalen DeBoer? Are they going to keep Kane Womack, that defensive coordinator they've got? What kind of changes are they going to make? Because this is Kalen DeBoer's first year, and I don't know how long his contract was or what they gave him. So I'm sure, but regardless of what that is, with it being in his first year, you've got to know that his buyout is astronomical. Now, Alabama's got it. I mean, they're, probably one of the few schools around that can front that kind of buyout money and still have enough left over for a contract, that would get the attention of somebody worth having. So, are they getting ready what kind of moves is Alabama getting ready for? Because if Alabama goes from this year to next year with the exact same coaching staff, I'll be shocked. Even more surprised that I am that they've ended up in the situation that they're in, losing 2 games before the end of October. I believe they said that hasn't happened since 2007, which was Saban's first year. But yeah, who's on the hot seat now? You got to think Brent Venables is. You got to think that Kalen DeBoer is. And what about Mark Stoops up at Kentucky? Kentucky, kind of came out of the gate at the beginning of the season, looking pretty good. Had that really impressive win over Ole Miss back, it's probably been 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and hasn't really done much since. Got blown out by Florida in Gainesville this past weekend. So, and he's been there a long time. That is one thing I will say about the Kentucky fan base and the administration up there. They have been very patient with that guy, but he hasn't yielded nothing. He hasn't come nowhere near the SEC championship game. And obviously, even in the expanded 12-team playoff, he's nowhere near that. Maybe win them 6 games and take them to a bowl game kind of thing. But that doesn't impress anybody anymore. Winning 6 games and go to a bowl game, unless you're Billy Napier at Florida, doesn't save your job anymore. Now, obviously, it's going to help Napier if he can pull it off down there because of the losing seasons they've had. But we'll see kind of how it goes from here on out. It seems like, every day a different name's being mentioned. And obviously these schools that are making these coaching changes and letting these guys go, they're not hiring anybody now. Whoever they would want to hire isn't going to leave where they're at mid-season. And again, mid-season, it wouldn't make that big of a difference. So obviously the vacated roles have been taken over by other people. So, again, a lot more news of different coaching changes I expect will be coming out in the coming weeks, and especially in the coming months once we get closer to the end of the season. You figure a lot of teams that were disappointed in the results of their season that obviously aren't going to go to the playoffs. A lot of teams are going to start firing those coaches when the season's over, even if they've won 6 games and go to a bowl game. Let a coordinator coach the bowl game or something like that. I'm not expecting very many coaching changes among the top 12 teams that'll make it to the playoffs. Probably won't need to make any coaching changes unless any of those schools lose a coach to go somewhere else that is going to a school that's in want. So as far as like other coaches being fired, that coaching carousel, as we call it, is really going to kind of start building steam towards the end of the season, after the season's over, before the playoffs start. But as always, thanks for checking out the video. We will see about doing some game previews coming up. I'm very, very interested in the LSU Texas A&M game. I've said it before, I believe, in a video, that right now, with the way things stand right now, today on Tuesday, if the SEC championship game were played, obviously next week, I believe it would be Georgia versus the winner of this LSU Texas A&M game. I could be wrong, but that's just how I see it right now. So, we'll see about that game, and then several other pretty good ones coming up. I know Georgia's off this week, and I know Tennessee's off this week. And there are probably more, but we'll go over the schedule, do a little bit of a rundown. See you next time.